Alright, it's Mark, and it's time to start our live show. I had some technical difficulties before trying to get it started, so I did send out a link. And because I set something up wrong, I couldn't get my monitor to show up, unfortunately. Because if you I set the bit rate too high, and for a high bit rate, you need an actual HD broadcast, and I'm not actually broadcasting in HD size, technically speaking. It's on an odd-shaped monitor, so I had to restart everything because of my mistake. So hopefully you guys can still find me if you're out there. So anyways, tonight's show we're going to talk about character design, and I'm going to kind of devote the whole show to just designing characters and how it's done. And one of my friends on Facebook had mentioned to me that he was a huge fan of Clay Animation and Wolverton Studios, and and so he actually moved to Portland to be near to the artists and to work, possibly work for Wolverton. And so you guys know the whole history, I guess, already, but Wolverton was sort of kicked out of his own studio. His studio was public, and so there was a shift in management, and so he no longer worked there. And so this kind of, it didn't really spell, it didn't actually create like a death sentence for Clay Animation per se, but Clay was kind of put aside for newer materials that were easier for animators to use. And also, Wolverton, even at that time, Wolverton was experimenting with using, computer graphics for his M&M commercials. And as you can see here, some of the designs that they created were using some foam latex. Let's see if I can zoom in. And a bunch of animators worked on these spots at the time, and this is sort of, I think this was the transition phase when they were using more foam and armatures that were, the characters were covered in cloth, and the armatures were ball and socket, I think, here. And so they sort of shifted things anyway. But this kind of design, this style of character, was something that they were really great at, just making caricatures of people. And so my friend was, he's a Clay animator, and he was upset that they did this sort of shift, and there's a reason, like I say, why they did shift at Wolverton Studios. A lot of it had to do with the time it takes to animate clay, which is a lot longer than foam latex. Also, the skill required is, there's much more skill involved in animating a clay puppet versus something that is foam. And let me see if I can. I hate having to close all this and then reopen it. Here's a clay design from Wolverton Studios. These were pictures I grabbed off of eBay many years back. Somebody had created this at the studio, this crazy looking character, and you can see the sculpting involved as well. So Janet is asking, can I answer on Facebook about one music video? Yeah, well, definitely. Now I should probably talk about that. So, about our live show, unfortunately, somebody has filed a complaint against our live show. So I'm not really wanting to show a lot of videos and stuff right now until I see how this one particular problem turns out. So I guess now that we're on the topic, I should tell you guys what's going on. Somebody filed a copyright complaint against us, and it's from Japan. The creators of Godzilla are my arch enemy now, I guess. One of the people there had seen that I posted I had shown a 30-second clip of Godzilla illustrating how you guys probably remember this, where we were talking about how you make something look more massive in animation, and how characters, the film speed is recorded sped up so that when you play it back, it's slow and has more mass to it. So even though it's a 30-second clip and it's definitely well within fair use, I've heard that people can shut your channel down because YouTube really doesn't care. Like, if somebody complains, well, YouTube just takes their side in it, kind of a thing. So I want to see how this. I filed a counter. I don't know what you call it, counterclaim or whatever they call it on there. You just click a button and you can argue and tell your side of the story. And then the crazy part is YouTube doesn't actually look at it. The whoever's in Japan will look at it at this Tokyo studio and let me know if they'll approve or not, which is really not a legal kind of thing, because fair use is fair use, and 30 seconds of a Godzilla feature is definitely well within that. But if it doesn't turn out well, I might have to change the formats of my shows. The reason being because if I get 3 copyright complaints, they shut my channel down. I mean, it's really kind of extreme, I mean, and the fact that anybody can lodge a complaint against you and shut you down. So I just want to see what happens with it before I show any more sort of videos and stuff. We get a lot of copyright notices, but usually what happens is, like, for example, if you guys send me a link to a video and I show it, I can show it, and if there's, let's say, an audio file that you use for your monthly challenges or something, and it has a song that is copyrighted, I'll generally get like a notice that says, oh, you're in good standing, but we're going to put ads on where the song starts to play, because that's the copyright holder and they want to make money. So I basically I don't monetize my videos, if you guys notice. So I don't really care. If they want to make money off of it, fine. But when people start complaining and sending me notices that they're gonna make my standing on YouTube bad for something like that, I gotta rethink about how I do things. All right, so maybe if you want to send me, Janet, a video, though, you feel free, and I can reply to you on Facebook, okay? If that's all right. So anyways, back to character design, okay? Now, so my friend, I was saying, my friend Don, he was talking about, he was really depressed for a while about how they no longer created characters like this. And so this is a clay character, and then let me see, here's another one. And this one was from the Claymation Christmas special. So a lot of the designers at the studio, I forget who it was that created this character. I've got it somewhere around here. I could probably tell you guys, but essentially people would sketch these characters on paper. That would be what they would do. They would say, well, we want to have a chorus of bells, and these bells are going to hit themselves on the head, and each time that they hit their head, it's going to make a different bell sound, and so they can make a musical. So Janet is saying, a few weeks ago when we talked about sculpting eyes, I asked on Facebook one question. Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Maybe it was something that I haven't read yet. So I'll have to check later, okay? Promise you I'll do that after the show. Okay, so what else can I show you guys? Here's another clay design. This is Rex. That was his name. And I don't think this one here is clay. I think this might be like a resin copy of the original character, and it's been painted, but you can see what they did here. They sculpted him, and they would have to animate the mouth with, they would take a tool and stick it in there and either open the mouth or close the mouth. The eyes were just stuck into sockets. And also, I should mention that molds were made of these as well, and that the eyes could be rotated in the socket because the mold has, they would pull the eyes out, and then the mold would have that depression in there, and so you could animate all these parts between animators, and the character, since it's from a mold, it would be the same for each animator. And so one of the problems at the studio was that a lot of times the animators would have different sculpting styles, and so if this character Rex were used by two separate animators, they had to figure out, what do we do to solve the problem of, the character looks different between animators. So they would try to give one character to one animator if possible, so that the style didn't change too much over time during animation. So now that all changed, and they were trying to be more productive at some point. And so they started to go into, they would sculpt the character. And this was one of the sports announcers for the NFL spots that they did, I think this would have been like probably 2000 or so, I think. Maybe a little bit before then. You can see that we've got hair, we've got eyes, we've got a mouth, a neck. And what they would do is they would sculpt this, make a mold, and then cast it in foam. And so no matter who animated this, the style of the shape here, the shape would not change drastically between animators, allowing more animators to work on multiple puppets and be more productive. So that was always the goal. I don't know what animators' perceptions of this were. I think they would probably just say, well, it's a job. I'm going to animate clay if given the chance. But if someone tells me to animate foam, I'll do that. So, I don't think there was any sort of like rebellion at the studio because they decided to go with the foamation, puppets as they called them at the time. But so there's a lot of things to think about when you're doing animation, and how much time and how much effort and money you want to throw at your project. And it's more or less, that's one of the things that artists always run into as a problem is, the money aspect. And it's really sad to say that because, I think that if given the chance, if artists had more money, you would see a lot more animation and a lot more really good animation, and a lot more individualistic styles as well. So studios are really good for making one style of character. And here you can see these were some Gary Bielke sculptures here for character designs, and he sketched all these and then sculpted them, and then they made the molds, and these are castings as well, really awesome castings. So Gabriel is saying, all of these clay characters have a wire armature or metal skeleton, right? Yep, they would have some metal skeletons, and Now it depends on the design. Now clay characters are more apt to have wire, and the reason being is because the clay will not uh, the tension on the wire joints will be constant. Okay, so if you use a ball and socket armature, the oils from the clay will get in there and loosen up the joints, because the oils get in between where the plates are and the ball is, and it lubricates it a little bit, and so the tension can become loose pretty quick. Now Wallace and Gromit, they are successful at using ball and socket armatures for especially Gromit the dog, because he has 4 legs, and there's not a lot of weight, and he's a small puppet, but like a larger fat clay puppet with a ball and socket armature is not really recommended. You also notice like this character has very skinny legs and arms as well. There's a reason for that, and the reason is because if you have clay on all these parts, now this could be silicone, but also with clay, the problem is that if you make something really thick and you try to bend it with clay on there, it's going to be really hard, because you're going to stretch the clay on one side and compress it on the other. So there's a lot of pitfalls to clay. Okay, I'm not trying to say don't animate with clay, but these are things to keep in mind when you design your character. You have to figure out what material you want to go with, and different materials have different strengths and weaknesses. So Ron is saying silicone looks more like clay than foam latex does. That would have been a better option if Vinton had survived a few more years. Yeah, I'm not really sure if they use silicone very often at the studio. I think it was mostly foam. And Ron says Leica knows how to adapt to the economy of stop motion production. Speed and time matter, like it or not, when you're running a business. Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the reasons why certain designs had shifted from clay to foam. And but clay is just a really, like I say, it's one of the most awesome and expressive ways to make a character. Like this expression here on Michael Raisin would have been, it's impossible to do this in foam latex, with the clay, with a foam mouth. So let me see here. So you can see here we've got a foam latex face, which is most likely just a skin, and there's an underskull under there that can move the jaw up and down. But the face is pretty much almost like a blank face, like they'll sculpt in a expression, and that's pretty much it. Whereas with clay, you can sculpt this expression really any way you want, and there's no limit to it. So this is why I particularly like at least characters that have clay heads and faces to work with during animation, because you can do anything really with it. Now they're doing 3D printing now to replace that. And I recently went on eBay, and they were selling some puppets from Wolverton Studios, and I found one puppet. And this here is the smallest puppet that Leica has ever created. And this is eggs from box trolls. And you can see here what they've pretty much done is evolved from clay to foam and silicone as well. I'm pretty sure they've used silicone later on. And now they're using 3D printing. And this is sort of the pinnacle, for that studio, for Leica. This would be the pinnacle of their designs. So, okay, now Janet says, I always wondered how this is in hand-drawn animation when this is impossible. A few people draw exactly the same. Yeah. Nope, they do the same thing in 2D animation. Like at Disney, they would have one artist who would stick with one character where possible because of their particular animation and drawing style. So that would actually be similar to what they did with the claymation films from Wolverton. One of the people that I met, John Ashley, I've got a picture of him here. This is like a comical picture of John, back in the maybe late 80s here, but he animated the carrot for Meet the Raisins, and he's one of the most amazing animators. He came from Mexico, and really, really interesting guy. He's kind of sticks to himself. He's not really out there, but he's been working in the business for, I think, like almost 30 years now, something like that. Um, yeah, so Beard Botnick is making a point also, like with 2D animation, you have character model sheets, and it shows you what the character looks like at all different angles. So if you watch a cartoon on TV, they try to stick to that particular look. Whereas I think Chris Falusi from Ren and Stimpy, he actually did the exact opposite. Like, they had a really rough design of the characters, and he would tell his animators, "Well, I want you to make every single expression of your character unique. I don't want to see, you make the character have a smile expression at the beginning of the film and at the end of the film that's exactly the same. It has to be different." So there are different methodologies to 2D animation, and also if you 3D animation as well. But you can see here, how things have evolved from, using clays and heavy materials to lighter materials to, using even lighter materials such as, even like using, knitted clothes, miniature knitted clothes. I mean, this is all done by hand here. Much lighter than clay or silicone. Obviously, I mean, it's real and it's lightweight. The faces also are done in a computer now, so it gives the director more, or the art director or whoever's in charge of the look or the style of the film. It gives them a lot more freedom and sort of allows them to dictate what animators can do. And so if a director, let's say, wants to have a crazy wild expression on a character's face, and he wants that animator to express that, he can go to his group of people who are using probably ZBrush or Maya or some similar programs to shape these faces, which pop on and off. And let me see here. Yeah, this puppet's currently selling for $15,000 on eBay. And but here you can see how the face is, it's 3D printed and it's stuck on. And they also have a team of people that will erase all of these lines in post-production as well. But all of the dirt smudges on his face and his tooth here and all this, all of that is painted in a computer nowadays. So, but here's the character I was telling you guys about. So in clay, you can do the same thing, and it's, in a way, it's actually more efficient to just sculpt something like this. Like this, he's kissing this tomato, and it's sort of like a joke that John did. And to just resculpt something is in some ways easier, but you have to have the skill to really sculpt that expression in there, and not a lot of animators are good sculptors. So Randy says that at Vinton's, while shooting Gary and Mike, the puppet bodies were foam, but all of their hair was done in silicone. And if their hair had to move, he says. Very interesting. So that was silicone hair. Oh, they're selling some PJ. They're selling what is this? A video? File Arts PJs. Well, I don't know why that's loading up like that. Different program. Yeah, so this is the PJs. Now, one of the things that they did here, not entirely sure why GIF files open up like this, but let's see if I can zoom in. I think the controls are down here somewhere. No? It's one of those Windows 10 things. I should probably... Let's do this. Oh, come on, really? Open with... All right, that stinks. Well, anyways, um, maybe this one. Okay, so on the PJs they had puppets also, and they used a lot of foam latex. And one of the ways they would keep something like this lightweight, because you can see the head here is very large. And Randy is mentioning that, and Gary and Mike, they use silicone for the hair. And I don't know what they used on the PJs. They used, when I animated Thorogood Stubbs for a test there once, the hair was made out of like a dense rubber foam, but I'm not really sure what it was. But they would slush cast these heads to make them hollow. So they would put some resin inside of a mold and slush it around to make it light. So keeping your characters lightweight is something that is very important. Let's go back here. It's a better picture. This is a really messed up puppet and incomplete, but you can see they would stick on some wax mouths as well to make them talk. So Gabriel says, I've heard that Ren and Stimpy production was tough, extremely demanding. I guess so. And Ron says it's sort of like how I would hate to give up sculpting in clay, but if I could sculpt digitally and just 3D print molds, I couldn't overlook the time and money savings and might have to switch. Yep, it would be helpful, but so far, it's kind of 3D printing is still, it's really hard to get it to work properly. Even the things that I 3D print for my customers now, the Bendy's armature kits, my printer works really well, and I've kind of solved all the problems I think that I have to solve, but just trying to get up and running with 3D printing is a steep learning curve. Yeah, $15,000 for eggs for this puppet here. And I thought to myself, he's got a hole in his butt there. Let me see. At least for $15,000, they could like sew that shut, right? I'm not sure. Maybe they had that hole there to stick a rod or something to make him walk or jump, or I'm not entirely sure. I don't think they've made too many eggs puppets. I'm not too sure. So Randy says, I did a test animation with PJ's puppets too, including the character, the wife. And I thought the hair was just hard plastic on her. Maybe it is. Stubbs was different though. It was like a dense foam of some sort. Close some of these. I've got a picture of him, but I tried to load it and it's really small. I don't know how to make this larger. I probably got another better picture around here someplace. Let me see. Ah, here we go. Nope. Well, it's pretty small, but yeah, it was like a dense rubbery foam of some kind. So let's see. What else about character design? I mean, there's just so many different ways to create characters, but maybe I should talk about trying to look through some pictures here. The sketching of characters and trying to find designs. So where did they find ideas for different characters and design them? And some of the artists at Vinton's were just really good artists, and they could sketch really, really good and come up with, designs that were appealing to your eye, as well as they could mechanically make them come to life, a lot of aspects of making puppets. Well, we could talk about, since this picture is really colorful, we could talk about color. And so when you design your characters, you have to figure out, of course, the size, the shape, so forth. And color is also important, and how it looks and how it fits into your environment. You want to make sure that the colors are appealing, not too bright. You don't want to make your characters stick out or contrast each other too much, unless that's your goal. You want to make sure that whatever you do with your character when you plan them, you want to make sure that you pre-plan, like for example, what they're going to do. Are they going to jump? Are they going to fly? Are they going to be in a lot of shots, just a few shots? Are they going to be seen from just one angle, or do you need to sculpt or cast an entire body, or just like the front part? Are they going to be really far from the camera, really close to the camera? So if it's really close, you'd probably want to add more details if they're going to be really the focus of your film. If something's going to be really far away, you don't need to really sculpt as much detail. So for example, if you look at this set, you'll notice that there's some paintings on the wall behind here, and some books and everything, and it looks really great. Most of the detail here is done because that was here was a really big production, a feature film. But if you were trying to do something where, for example, here you got a Christmas tree, and you don't see this picture behind there. So you might want to just, use something that's, not so detailed and intricate in the background. But, and you also have to figure where, your characters are, what they're going to do. There's just so much to think about before you really create your puppet. Their scale and, in terms of how large they are next to other characters is important. So here you can see what they've done. One of the designers, Chris Rabowongs, I guess his name is. This was for one of the film projects where they incorporated live action with puppets, and so this is one of the things they tried to figure out. And then here's another one where they designed their main character had to look stylized and turn into a puppet. So what they did is they sat down and sketched him at different angles. So sketching is really helpful, right? But what if you can't sketch? So what do you do? What's the solution? You don't know how to really design characters like this very well. Well, you can always find inspiration on the internet, and of course Google is the #1 source of pictures. So let me open up Google real quick. And one of the artists, the character designers at Wolvinton Studios, and I know I've probably told this before. Let me see here. Where's Google? AVG updated and took over my my browser. Okay, so Google image search. Here we are. So if you can't draw and you want to, design a character. All right, so my cat's trying to scratch on the door here, trying to get out. Let me let my cat out real quick. Let me see here. I'm going to read some of your comments first. So Randy says, I do remember the foam hair on Thorogood. And Jason says, they probably threw out 100 face plates before choosing one to sell the eggs puppet with. And yeah, and I think with that eggs puppet, that hole in the bottom there probably was for some sort of rig, so he could do things. I don't remember. I think there's like a scene where he has to be like chased around and stuff and jumping and Jason also says, speaking of size and proportion, I'm reminded of Justin Rash's Enemy Line, where he had an idea of dog and flea and had to resize the flea to the size of the dog, but it never looked right to me. Yeah, I think you might be referring to like forced perspective. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what scene you're talking about in there. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things to consider. So anyways, Gary Bielke was the artist that taught me this, and he said, if you like the style of caricatures and you want your designs to have a caricatured look that's not realistic but more like a cartoon cartoony proportions, like larger heads and hands and things like that. His solution, when I asked him, for me, was to practice by sculpting characters that are designed by the people that work for Mad Magazine. And so Mad Magazine is really popular in America. If you go to like the grocery store, a lot of times they'll have this on the shelf, and also any kind of convenience stores that sell milk and bread, you can usually find these as well. And they're really cheap. They're only like a couple of bucks, maybe $2-3 for an issue. And there's a lot of this is Alfred E. Newman, but let's see, magazine characters, pictures. Don't really know what we're going to find here. But the style that they work in is similar to like the Vinton style that was really prevalent in the mid 80s. But it gives you a lot of ideas for how you can actually do things. So let's see, this one here. All right, so you can see how they've taken most of the famous actors on television and stylized them. And when they sketch them this way, it's a lot simpler to sculpt. You're looking at a sketch than trying to just sculpt something. So let me see here. So Janet says, tomorrow I made stop motion video with some minifigures for Disney contest. Send to you too, Mark? Yeah, you can send that to me, Janet. I'll take a look. And Thomas says, no, the actual character of the flea was the size of the dog character. Oh. Let me see if I can find... Yeah, okay. It's going to be hard to... You can't post links, unfortunately, in the chat. But if you want to, Facebook me a link, you can do that. Let me see. Okay, which you did. Let me check it out real quick. Yeah, we can try to figure out what you're talking about here now. Let me see. But so Mad Magazine is one of the secrets that I was taught about from Wolverton Studios to get some really cool inspirational designs and whatnot. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna put this link in here. Hopefully it works. Okay. So here's the flea and the dog. Okay. So was this like two maquettes? It looks like he might have used Sculpey or something here and then painted these, but I can't really tell for sure. Huh. But it's interesting, and look at his waist. It's so skinny. I think that was changed a little bit, wasn't it? So these might be earlier designs. And yeah, the size is a little bit I don't know. I don't know what to say about it, really. It's not necessarily bad, but okay. So Jason is saying he says he believes the puppets were mostly foam. Oh, I see. The flea should be much smaller. It's foam latex. Yeah, if you make a character really fat and you had to bend it, it's hard to bend a character that's really fat. Even with foam latex, sometimes it doesn't stretch properly. It looks kind of weird. So you sort of need to sculpt in folds and things so that it gives the foam a place to sort of compress and look natural at the same time. If you make a really large and smooth character and you try to bend it, like let's say they're a really extra large jelly bean with, which is smooth and has arms and legs on it, and a pair of eyes, and you try to bend it in foam latex, the foam will bend, but it will look weird in the front where it's sort of like curved outwards. I guess convex, sort of like that. And then the other side will look more natural. So, yeah, I don't know. You always want to kind of make things small as you can, but also large enough to get your hands in there and animate all the details and stuff. And Thomas says he believes the puppets were mostly foam latex and the faces are clay. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're probably right about that. You're probably right. It does look like clay here. So, and Jason's saying Justin did that independently, but he's also a professional animator. Yeah, I mean Justin is he's great at 2D animation. He worked for Leica, and he's done a lot of stop motion for them. I think he's working on the latest feature there as well. And huh. I see what you're saying, Thomas. So Thomas is kind of saying that the flea looks more like an alien more than you would expect a flea to be, which is tiny, able to jump really far as something really small. I can understand that. Yeah, Justin has worked at Leica. He worked on Paranorman was I think the first feature he worked on with them, where he did the dancing scene with the bully kind of hanging out with his friends with the boombox. It's a really awesome. He does awesome animation. I think he's one of the. I think Justin's past history doing 2D animation has helped him become a better stop motion animator. Just the way he can do things. The way he sees things is different somehow. Yep, that's a flea, Randy. I think that's the dog is called like Dober or something, and I forget what the flea is called. So Ron says, I don't think the film from Justin was ever completed. He got called away for Leica. That was disappointing because it was going to be a stereo 3D film, and all the shots I saw were great. Yeah, he was doing an awesome job on it. And I think he raised money for it, so I don't think he's going to give up on it. I think he's going to complete it if it's not already. And it might already be animated. I can't remember now. It might be animated but needs editing. He worked really hard on that. Oh, okay. So Thomas says he has a DVD of it. Okay, so it is completed, right? Yeah, I mean, he was working so hard on that. And his whole family was, actually. Even his kids. All right. So yeah, character designs, and you can find sketches like this everywhere. Just use Google, like I say. This is just a search for Mad Magazine characters, so we can just click around and we can see all these awesome expressions. And, if you can sculpt something like this as a base for your character, then you can sculpt the expressions in a lot easier because you can visualize the way things look. You can also look at characters and just actors and actresses and do your own altercations in like Photoshop by altering the head shape and so forth. By stretching things and compressing things a little bit. So let's see, here's some Batman character designs. Really awesome. And if you're doing your own film, or if you're trying to make money making your own film, especially, you want to make sure you hire somebody to do your designs. This kind of, these kind of characters you can use to get ideas, but you don't want to really, copy people's work. You want to try to be as original as you can, but it's always good to, look around and see what you like before you hire a designer as well. Because if you don't like these kind of designs, you would not hire this designer. You'd want to go with somebody maybe, maybe your film has more faceted characters like robots or, some bizarre hallucination characters or something, I don't know. But you want to make sure that your character designer, of course, can draw in the style you're actually after for your film. And of course, there's money involved in that, and unless they're your friend, and we'll do it for free. But there's so many awesome designs. And let's see, character. Let's just type in character designs and we can see probably different styles here. So like I was saying, some characters are more faceted. A lot of people like to draw where everything is more angular. This is a trend that's been in cartoons since maybe the, maybe early 90s. Characters have very sharp edges to them. So I don't know if that translates well to a sculpted character. I've seen some toys where it does, but a lot of times one side of a character's face will look different. On both sides, they'll sort of what do you call it? Trying to think of the word. I can't think of it. Exaggerate, the features. So Ron is saying caricature is the art of exaggerating what the most noticeable traits of a person's face are and translating them into a cartoon form that makes them instantly recognizable. See, Ron thought of the word before I did, and I was trying to remember the word exaggeration. It didn't pop in my head there. So the claimant says Tom Richmond is an amazing illustrator. So let's check him out. So Tom Richmond, illustrator. Oh, very cool. I guess that's himself maybe right here. That's pretty funny. Yeah, that's an awesome design. Yeah, exaggerating all these features just, it makes people look hilarious. Let's see. So Jason Morrow says I always thought that angular look came from lazy CGI artists. Nope. I think it actually comes from Disney, believe it or not. I think when they made Pocahontas, I think that was their first sort of angular, stylized character designs, and it stuck. Everybody wanted to do it after that, I think. So, yeah. It's not CGI. It's not CGI's fault. These are really cool designs here. Yep. So that makes for some fun sculpting right there for sure. That's great. Here's Abe Lincoln, which you can see here. I'm losing my voice. Cat hair or something. So let's see here what else we have. There's Tiger Woods. So when you're designing characters like this, of course you gotta consider the animation aspect of it as well. And exaggerating is good, but you might want to consider toning something like these teeth down a little bit if you're trying to make a stop motion puppet. Also, if you're making a puppet and your puppet's body is this tiny, it also poses problems as well. You have to consider the armature has to be inside there, and your armature has to support a very large head. So can you actually fit something in there and support it? And if not, there's always, there's ways around that. You could support your character's large head on a rig of some sort and, take the weight off the lower body and animate that separate. You could even make this into a clay on glass, like 2.5D character that is laying flat on the glass and shooting the camera downwards, So there's really no limit to the design. But if you're trying to go with one particular type of puppet style, you gotta, of course, think about those things too. These are great. Here's Frankenstein. Yeah, one of my favorite mad artists is Herman Magius, who is, I'm not really sure where he's from. I'm not sure if he's from like Puerto Rico or someplace. But we'll look at him, look up his work. Let's see, Herman. And I'm not sure if I'm spelling his name right here, but let's see. Maybe not. Let me see, Herman. It might even be like 2 N's or something. Let's put in mad. Maybe Google will... Herman. Maybe Google will correct my mistake here. Ah, okay. I guess that's how you spell it. Yep, that's how you spell it. So you can see here, he does a lot of like watercolors as well. It's kind of a small photo here. Let me see if I can find a bigger one. Let's see. Try and find a larger example. But I always thought that, you know, his watercolors were always brought out the shapes of his designs really well. Here's some of them right here. So Janet says, what this is important with shapes and sketches. When I was at Virtual Animators, and Dale Bear shows concept art of Yzma, I don't understand when everybody loves her shape. Ah, okay. So what is the importance of the shape? Well, you know, the exaggerating shapes are somewhat pleasing to the eye, I guess. Here's like an Oprah Winfrey. So, like for example, with this here, you'll notice that her head is oversized and her body's a bit smaller. They've got some perspective here as well of like Dr. Phil. So his head's kind of large, but it's kind of appealing. You know, there's something kind of funny about that. The head's not too large, not too small, but it's just large enough to kind of exaggerate, you know, that part. And not all characters are exaggerated, but like here's Donald Trump. Let's see how he looks. So it's like like the DuckTales, I guess the opening where Scrooge McDuck jumps into a giant pile of his gold, right? So then we've got Donald Trump here, but you know the body shape and everything is kind of you know, it just looks funny. I don't know. But if you don't like a particular style or shape, if it doesn't look good to you, then of course that's the important thing, is not to what is this? I guess that wasn't a really good day for him there. But let me see. See if I can find, what is this now? Ah, okay. So let me visit his page. He also sculpts his characters, and this might be where you can see those. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so here's some of his designs that he's sculpted, and so you can see how it translates into 3D, which is really, I think, looks amazing. So these are some, of course, politicians, various politicians from all over the place. And got some, I don't know who this guy is, but I mean the shapes are just amazing to look at. You know, the characters come alive when they're sculpted well. You like Scrooge, Jason? Yeah. I used to watch DuckTales as a kid after school. They had that on TV all the time, and I would come home and watch that. And what was the other one they had? They had like this these bears that were like in an enchanted forest. Another Disney film. I forget what they're called now. But yeah, let me see what else we can find here on Herman's webpage. I'm not even sure if this is his webpage, actually. Let me see. It's from 2010, so this might be There we are. One thing I don't really understand is a lot of artists don't put all their work on their websites. Like this here is just his experimental stuff. Watercolors, painting, and motion. So this isn't really a good example of his character designs, per se. Oh, okay. Well, anyways, but Herman Mejias has got some really great designs, and I mean, this one here looks like something you could actually animate if you wanted to. Sort of woman turning into a rat. I forget what her name is. She was in some news article many years back. Can't quite remember. I guess she was like a whistleblower or something like that. But anyway, you guys have any questions about designing characters or how to get ideas? Anybody working on any particular characters? It's more of Herman's work. I think that's Donald Rumsfeld. Gummy Bears, that's right, Gabriel. Yeah, Gummy Bears was the TV show, the cartoon that they had. And Ron says, I had a job one time where I needed to caricature George Bush and Al Gore. I wasn't proud of the job I did, to say the least. All right. At John Lemon Films, they did that as well. They did some stuff with Condoleezza Rice, I think, and Dick Cheney. Some sort of UFO comes in and like steals his food or something like that. And here's George Bush. Pretty neat. And the paint job he does is just great too, isn't it? Amazing paint job. So that's one of the perks of being an artist. If you're a painter, you can translate your painting skills to painting sculptures, and if you're a good sculptor, well, it doesn't really translate to painting too well, but oh, okay, Linda Tripp. That's right. Wow, you got a good memory, Ron. Couldn't remember. And Gabriel says, I wanted to make a dragon, but didn't know how to make a full body latex skin. I want to make a biped. Good. So that's a good question. Well, a quadruped with wings. I still don't know how to make it. Well, I would, of course, sketching is the first thing. Sketching it out. And then when you have your sketch, try to print it out life size, whatever scale you want. And from there, you can sketch your armature inside of your design. So you could put in maybe ball and socket parts or wire, depending on what you want to do. Then when you have that, you can sculpt some clay, with like an oil-based clay, over your wire, your armature. And then from there, you would essentially, detail it out, make it look how you want it to. Make sure that your parts can be molded. You don't want to make things, sculpt the legs too close to the body. You want to make them kind of splayed out a little bit so you can get your mold making material into all the parts, And then what you want to do is you want to make your mold out of something like maybe Ultracal. And from there, you have, let's say, like probably a 3-part mold or so. You would put your armature inside the mold. You would tie the feet down by drilling holes where the feet are in your mold. Tie those down with some bolts. And then you want to wrap your armature with some string or some wire, so that the foam latex will have something to grab onto. Sometimes you could wrap it in cloth mesh as well, or cloth tape, and then you would inject your latex into the mold and bake it. But it's a really complicated process. it requires some experimenting. So if you're going to actually do something like that, I think Ron Cole uses silicone foam, which is a little easier to use than foam latex. Foam latex works great. You can paint it easily and so forth. But if you're going to use silicone, you can actually like paint it in the mold, and you have a lot more working time. It bends well. You could, when you make a skin out of silicone, you could fill the interior of that cavity with a foam that's expandable and flexible. So there's just a lot of ways you can do it. But it's a good question. I mean, it just depends on your how much money you have, and there's a lot to it, isn't there? Randy says, looks like a cross between Geo Bush and Mogwai. I guess so. If you put water on him, does he multiply? I don't know. He might. Here's Saddam Hussein. Another great design, and a lot of use of purples here. You notice in the in the colors. Huh, okay. So Beard is working on 2 puppets right now. And Ron is saying that Linda Tripp ratted out the Lewinsky affair. Oh, okay. That's right. Man, that was a long time ago. And Janet says, what do you think about the 3D pen? And I've seen those sold, but I don't really have a need for one of those, to be honest. It seems kind of like you can make a lot of stuff with those, but it's really rough. I'm sure it's good for some things, though. I've seen some people make a lot of stuff out of them. And Gabriel says that info was great. Thanks. I'll make a good biped and I'll show you. Van Aken and aluminum wire ETA 1 month. All right, sure. Oh, so Ron says he's abandoning silicone foam. That's interesting. Maybe because you found something better, I'm thinking. Haha, that would be cool. If you did, that would be awesome. I mean, I can't think of anything better than foam silicone, but... All right. Well, anyways, it is 9 o'clock where I live now, so that means it does conclude our live show. I appreciate you guys stopping in. Appreciate your questions, and it's always fun to discuss these things and explore stop motion every week with you guys. So, anyways, next week, same time, same place. Janet, I will check out your questions or your, just make sure you send them to my email if possible, so I can find it. All right, so see you guys all later on.